I have to say, I saw something on social media right after all the games were over in week 17 that I found completely and totally fascinating. I wish I could remember who was the first person that I saw that tweeted this little factoid out because it was incredibly interesting and for me, really eye opening, thought provoking to a different level than I even thought possible. What I'm talking about specifically is the statistic that the six highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL in 2018 will all be watching the playoffs from home. That list includes Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, Matt Ryan, Jimmy Garoppolo, Derek Carr, Matthew Stafford. I know I'm a little off on the order, but those are the six highest paid quarterbacks in the league. All of them have one thing in common. They will not be playing in the playoffs this year. And you have other guys in the top 10 or so in Alex Smith. He's not going to be doing anything other than watching the playoffs from home. And Joe Flacco's also in the top 10. And yeah, his team is technically in the playoffs, but it has very little to do with them. And we all know that to be true. So much for hashtag elite, huh? But just think about that for a second. The six highest paid quarterbacks in the league, none of them made the playoffs. A seventh one in the top 10 didn't make the playoffs. Then another one of those guys in the top 10 in Flacco, his team made the playoffs, but he's not even their starter. And then when you look at that a little differently, 7 of the 12 teams that made the playoffs this year have a starting quarterback or a primary starting quarterback in the case of the Eagles that is on a rookie scale contract. I don't know about you, but that's eye-opening. Like we've talked a little bit in the past about the importance of getting a quarterback on a rookie contract and building the team up around him. But this to me is incredibly striking as a stat that 7 of the 12 teams that made the playoffs this year have young quarterbacks on a rookie contract. You look at the AFC, you've got the Chiefs, you've got the Texans, and you've got the Ravens. You look at the NFC side of the house, you've got the Rams, the Bears, the Cowboys, the Eagles, even though I know Foles is starting. But still, what he's getting paid in 2018 isn't that much more than a rookie-level contract. So you could almost kind of count it even with Foles starting instead of Wentz. But one of the reasons you can have a quality backup like a Nick Foles is because you have a young starting quarterback like Carson Wentz on a rookie deal, injury or not. And when I started to really think about this, I'm like, this was really eye-opening. Even more than I already kind of understood. And it leads me to believe one of 3 things is going to have to happen in the future in the NFL when it comes to the quarterback marketplace and the way organizations handle things. Either number 1, there's going to have to be a significant market correction in the quarterback market in the next few years to, I almost want to say, de-emphasize the importance of the quarterback position from a salary cap allocation standpoint. Specifically if they are non-elite quarterbacks. If they're not a top 5, top 7, top 8 guy, you've now gotten to the point where you're just paying guys the most money because that's when they happen to come available, not actually based off their merits. There's going to have to be some type of correction in the marketplace, or there's going to have to be a significant and sizable increase in the total salary cap for NFL teams in order to accommodate the exploding bubble of out-of-control quarterback salaries, and they are out of control. When an Alex Smith is a top 10 paid quarterback in the league, we've got problems here. We do. When a Jimmy Garoppolo, who has done dick squat in the league as a starter, sorry Niners fans, it's true, and he's a top 5 paid guy, we've got major, major problems here. Absolutely do. If one of those 2 things doesn't happen, then what's going to happen is NFL teams are going to have to significantly reevaluate how they value the quarterback position and what type of value they put on the quarterback position, especially for those above average to slightly below average quarterbacks. The days of paying these guys the high-end money must stop. The league is trending in one direction, and it is not trending in the direction of draft a guy. If he's average, you pay him because you want to keep him. That's just foolhardy, and that's very poor team building, personnel management, and most importantly of all, salary cap management. And as much as we all wanted to bash on the Washington Redskins, and I most certainly did, for their handling of the Kirk Cousins situation over the past couple of years, maybe it's time to reevaluate that position and understand that maybe they were ahead of the curve. They did not want to take an average to slightly above average quarterback in Kirk Cousins and pay him true franchise quarterback, elite quarterback type of money. Now, they kind of did for a couple of years by utilizing the franchise tag, but ultimately they were able to get out from under that situation. To where when you see a guy like Garoppolo getting paid what the hell he was getting paid, Kirk Cousins can reasonably sit there and say, I would have expected to be able to potentially get more. The Redskins didn't want to have anything to do with that. They didn't. They took a look, saw his value compared to what they felt like they would have to pay him, and long-term did not feel like he was worth the price. And from the Redskins standpoint, it looks like a very smart move. Because isolated on its own, you save all of that cap space for not paying way too much for an average quarterback in Kirk Cousins. Then you look at the Minnesota Vikings, who do step up to the plate, give them $84 million guaranteed over 3 years, and they go from being a team in the NFC Championship game last season with Case freaking Keenum as their starter on a much more team-friendly deal, to now you're paying a quarterback like a quarterback, and you miss the damn playoffs, and the dude's pissing it down his leg week 17 in the playoffs. At home, in a must-win game, winning your in against the divisional rival Chicago Bears. The only thing that hurts the Redskins in the grand validation of all this is they were the idiots that turned around and traded for Alex Smith and gave him a lot of damn money. I think it was an average of like $23 million a season, whatever the hell it was. Now you could say, well, when Alex Smith was healthy, they were trending in first place, Long term, though, it still doesn't change the significant salary cap ramifications of paying damn near elite money to an average quarterback. Kirk Cousins, average, slightly above average at times. Alex Smith, same damn thing. Why would you pay them elite level money? But we're talking about the Redskins here, and we're talking about Bruce Allen and Daniel Snyder, and they're morons, and we all know it. But the first part of it, they were onto something. And you're going to have to see in the future if more teams kind of figure that out and pick up on that and realize, like, hey, maybe we need to rethink this whole thing. I look at the 2015 quarterbacks, Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota. And besides Mariota's injury history and not showing up for his team in Week 17, Jameis Winston, the off-the-field crap, being benched at one point in time for Ryan Fitzpatrick, you look at these guys now, and even if they come out and have clean, productive seasons in 2019, which will be the last year on their rookie contracts, are you really itching and dying to pay those guys $30+ million damn dollars, which is what the quarterback market currently would command for those two? Hail to the no! And if you do, you're insane. Because what are you doing? You're paying, at best right now, average quarterbacks elite quarterback money. So you're vastly overpaying for a position that you, in theory, are overvaluing, understandably, for still overvaluing, and significantly hamstringing your flexibility and ability to build the team around them. Like, if you're looking at Mariota, Winston, and you were heading into the offseason, even if they have both led their teams to the playoffs now, kind of rethinking everything, I would be in no hurry to give either one of these guys a long-term extension. Let them play out the string. And they either prove themselves to be elite, or if they're not, you seriously have to reevaluate whether you really need them in the fold anymore. I look at the 2016 quarterback class. We know I'm a Carson Wentz ball washer and nut hugger all day. But the truth is, the dude's having some trouble staying healthy. They won the Super Bowl last year ultimately because Nick Foles got hot in the playoffs. Would I really feel comfortable right now, after this season is officially over, which means he's 3 years in and you're technically eligible to start negotiating a long-term deal with him, would I want to give Carson Wentz $30 million or close to it long-term? Hell no! Hell no! And you think about Jared Goff. Do you really want to pay him right now that much money? Hell no. If you've got the opportunity to pick up the fifth-year option and ride out the string for 2 more years before you have to really make that decision, then that's what the F you have to do. It's like when I hear Jerry Jones talk about Dak Prescott, who they took in the 4th round in that draft. They lucked into him. Talking about a priority is to pay Dak in the offseason. Why? You don't have to. You don't need to. Dak is an average NFL quarterback. And you're lucky that you're paying him that rookie contract off of him being a 4th round pick. It gives you so much salary cap space that you could bundle it in other places like you typically do. But it allows you the flexibility in the trade market also to go out there and make a deal for somebody like an Amari Cooper. It allows you the flexibility to be able to retain somebody like a DeMarcus Lawrence, even if it's on a franchise tag. Because you're paying your quarterback jack freaking squat. Even if Dak threatened to hold out or anything like that, you can't be in any hurry whatsoever to re-sign him. He has not shown you he is an elite guy. It is not worth tying $30+ damn million into Dak Prescott because of reasons. That makes no sense. Because if you found a guy like Dak in the 4th round, who is, like I said, average and at times maybe slightly above average, you should have confidence in your organization in another year or 2 in the draft to potentially be able to find that guy and start all over again. And how much of a step back are you really taking? Now, I look at the 2017 quarterback class, and I look at Patrick Mahomes. Now, here's an example of, based on what we saw this year, MVP type of season, he could very well end up being elite. If you're the Chiefs, you waited 3.5 decades to finally take a quarterback in round 1, and when it does, it looks like you hit a grand fucking slam. If Mahomes establishes himself in the next couple of years as one of those heirs apparent as the elite quarterbacks in the National Football League, the Chiefs have to re-sign him regardless of the price, and you figure out the rest of the situation as you go. That's simple. Deshaun Watson, with what he brings to the table for the Texans, might have elite value to them, even if he's not necessarily truly an elite level quarterback. And as much as the quarterback position has been a challenge for that organization, it might make sense in 3-4 years at the end of his rookie year to consider paying him what at that time could potentially be $35 million a year and figuring out the rest as you go. But I look at my Bears and Mitchell Trubisky. And this is not ragging on Trubisky. And if you think it is, clean out your damn ears. What I'm saying is I don't see some of the elite level traits and characteristics in the Trubisky as I do with his classmates in Mahomes and Watson. Sorry, don't see him. I see a quarterback that can be good, that could potentially be a little bit better than good, maybe pretty good. But when you translate that over, that's average to slightly above average. I don't see top 5 in the league type of potential with Trubisky. I don't even know if I see top 8 potential with him. It feels like long-term his range is probably going to be somewhere between 10 to 16. So when you look at the Chicago Bears and the way they are currently structured, one of the reasons they've been able to bring in an Allen Robinson and a Taylor Gabriel and a Trey Burton via free agency, be able to re-sign Akeem Hicks long-term, be able to re-sign Kyle Fuller long-term, re-sign Eddie Goldman long-term, trade for Khalil Mack and give him massive money, is because they're paying diddly squat to Trubisky. In another 3 years, where you would be through the 5th year of his rookie deal, if you pick up the option, which I would assume they would, Do you really want to get to the point where you're paying Trubisky $35 million plus a season to be a 10th or 12th best quarterback in the league? I sure as fuck wouldn't. That's insane. And yes, I know the Bears have had their issues and challenges with the quarterback position, but ultimately I look at a guy like Trubisky and say, if you took him and 5 years later he's only established himself as the 10th or 12th best quarterback, maybe it's better off starting over at that position again, because it might be a lot easier to find that level of guy and pay him a pittance of the price to do so. Like, let's paint this picture a little broader here. Let's look at the example of Kirk Cousins and the Minnesota Vikings. According to SportTrack, his cap hit for this year was about $24 million. And I've got a couple of names here I've got written down. For the $24 million that the Vikings paid Kirk Cousins this year in terms of a cap hit, the Chicago Bears could give that same cap hit to Akeem Hicks, Kyle Fuller, Mitchell Trubisky, and if you go just a little bit over that $24 million, it's the Eddie Goldman, because he got a new deal during the season. Think about that. Would you rather have Kirk Cousins, or would you rather have Akeem fucking Hicks, Kyle Fuller, Eddie Goldman, and then you throw in your young quarterback in Mitchell Trubisky? Seems pretty obvious to me. Look at the San Francisco 49ers and the ridiculousness of that Jimmy Garoppolo deal. According to SportTrack, his cap hit for this season was $37 million. Let me back that up. For a guy who's made all of, 7 starts in his career prior to 2018, the dumbass 49ers gave Garoppolo a contract that gave a $37 million cap hit for 2018. For that same $37 million cap hit, the Chicago Bears were able to pay Khalil Mack. His cap hit this year, according to that site, was $13.8 million. Allen Robinson in free agency, $11.1 million. Taylor Gabriel, $5.5 million. And oh, by the way, still paying Trubisky in his $6.6 million cap hit. So for the money that the 49ers gave to an injury-prone Jimmy G, who really hasn't shown you a whole lot of shit in the grand scheme of his career, sorry, truth hurts, suck on it, Niners fans, because I'm right and you know it, the Chicago Bears paid an elite defensive player, their new number 1 wide receiver, their number 2 wide receiver, and their young starting quarterback. Which team would you rather be? And even if we look ahead to the 2018 draft class, they're only 1 year in, so you got potentially another 4 years of their rookie contracts, assuming 5th-year options are picked up before you have to worry about it. You look at the Cleveland Browns. If Baker Mayfield shows himself as a top 10 quarterback because of the challenges the Browns have had as an organization over the years, because of the problems that they've had, the instability they've had at that position, if Baker's even a top 10 guy, you do have to pay him, even if it is $35, $40 million, and you figure out the rest of it along the fucking way. That's true. But I will use the Josh Rosen example. Josh Rosen taken 10th overall by the Cardinals. Not a good rookie season. Not certainly his fault, but he could have been better, but he most certainly could have been worse based off of the environment he was thrown into. But let's say 4 years from now, Josh Rosen establishes himself as maybe the 12th to 14th best quarterback in the league. If you're the Arizona Cardinals, do you really, by the time you get to that level of contract or that amount of time passed, you start getting 4 years down the road, we could be talking upwards based off the way the current quarterback market is escalating and exploding. You could be talking about $38 to $40 million a season, which could still be taking up 15 to close to damn near 20% of your yearly salary cap. Do you really want to pay that to a Josh Rosen being an average quarterback, which means they don't do much to elevate the guys around them, which you're going to need dudes around him if he's an average quarterback? Or would you be better off just hitting the draft again and finding another guy who at worst case scenario might end up performing at that level that you pay a pittance in comparison? Now, some of you are going to think that this is crazy and nuts that you would think about taking a quarterback and then a few years later in the draft, take another one and potentially start this never-ending cycle of always looking to replace your quarterback. But unless market conditions change for the quarterback position, unless market conditions change in terms of the salary cap, something's going to have to give. Something's going to happen. Because even if you say, well, Drew Brees and Tom Brady get paid a lot of money, yeah, but they're not top 6 guys. They're elite guys, and they're not quite getting paid the truly elite money in the league. They've taken less to help their team to a certain degree. If they took truly what their value was, which was top 3 money in the league, how different would their teams be? Doesn't seem like it's that big of a difference, but it can make a massive amount of difference. I'm sorry, but like thinking about this more and more, looking at it from my Bears standpoint, if Trubisky just proves himself to be average, don't overpay for the guy in a few years just because of the fear of being back in a position of not having the guy. It's better than paying the guy like you once did for Jay Cutler. You paid him Aaron Rodgers money when he couldn't fucking beat Aaron Rodgers, and that contract was stupid. And it hamstrung some of your ability to make some of the type of moves that were necessary in free agency to build a team around a guy who wasn't that dude. You have to learn from the Jay Cutler experience and specifically the Jay Cutler mistakes. And other teams need to learn from the Jimmy Garoppolo mistake and the Kirk Cousins mistakes. The Redskins tried to show us the way before Allen and Snyder did what they do. I promise you, more teams are going to have to think about this. More teams are going to have to think really hard about this. And it might change the way that we look at and value the quarterback position in the future. Because if not, if it doesn't happen, teams are going to spend themselves into oblivion on average quarterbacks and then wonder why they're watching the playoffs from home.